Students/teachers of Reddit. What's the best forgot to turn off the mic story during virtual learning? Well, it happened in one of the classes. The teacher was going through a rough time and the class could feel it. We assured her that we had done our homework and that she could take a rest for the time being. She agreed and told us that she would switch her mic off and sleep for a while as we did whatever. Her husband was right beside her and the mic wasn't turned off. She said that she was so lucky to have these students and started sobbing to her husband. We all heard this but kept quiet to prevent her being embarrassed. She slept well during that time and we sent her a thank you gift collectively. This is the sweetest one it possibly could have started out with. Yes, that teacher is lucky for those students, and those students are lucky for that teacher. It sounds like they had good reason to appreciate her. Huge just W all around. Story 2. I was producing a video for some university professors on a specific medical thing for a virtual learning course. I was all set up to shoot the process and the teachers excused themselves to the next office to regroup and have a chat. I already had their wireless lav mics attached and fed to my camera, so when I sat down at the camera and put on my headphones, I immediately heard their conversation. They were criticizing me, saying they couldn't believe they hired someone so young, inexperienced in that particular medical field, how I looked, how I asked questions, etc. Oops. At least I made them a fine video. These days, I don't put my headphones on until we're about to shoot. Story 3. I was visiting my best friend during a lecture and she had her mic and video turned off. She then had to join a group discussion and sometimes unmuted herself to contribute something. After that, the whole class was supposed to present the results and she supposedly muted herself again. I started venting to her how wasps were considered wild bees even though they have no business being bees because they're jerks. And suddenly we hear laughter from her professor and her classmates. She forgot to mute herself. Okay, but OP's kinda spitting here. Wasps should not be considered bees. They are, as OP said, just jerks. Bees aren't jerks, wasps are. This is unfair. Justice for bees. Story 4. A student's mother had the habit of standing just off camera and very closely observing her kid. I know this because one time the student forgot to disable the mic. Everyone heard how the mother was coaching the student to act. Don't look my way, smile, pay attention. It was next level helicoptering. Right on the edge of abuse, IMO. Our school has a good counselor and the student is getting help. All the teachers have been advised to limit contact with the mother and not make waves, lest she withdraw the student or redouble her controlling behavior. I worry about it. Story 5. It isn't too bad, but during the graduating ceremony for a class, all staff were asked to attend and turn on their mic to clap at certain points so it wouldn't be awkward. One such staff member forgot to turn their mic back off, and was heard loudly, jokingly insulting her husband and asking for another drink, whilst complaining about how long and boring this was. This was broadcast to a whole class, their parents, and anyone listening. We stuck together and didn't tell anyone who it was, but we all knew. Mute your mics. Story 6. During one of the lectures, our cat came into the room and jumped into my lap. I proceeded to tell him how he's very cute and I love him so much, in the stupidly sweetest voice possible because he's the best boy. Then a full minute or two into me praising the cat, a message popped up. It was from my classmate saying, I am unmuted. I had a mini spook and replied with, oh, I was just talking to him, plus a picture of the cat. It was extra awkward because I walk around with a resting jerk face and barely talk to anyone when we're at uni. So my classmate later admitted the only reason no one warned me sooner was because it didn't occur to them that the person with this sweet voice was me. Story 7. A boy accidentally forgot to turn his mic off and we heard how his mom literally verbally abuses him. Then he looked at the camera and realized the mic was on and then turned the camera and mic off. The next day he looked like he cried all day and his mom was behind the camera. I still feel bad for that kid. Story 8. Not a Zoom or anything, but I was a flight attendant. We used handheld mics to give briefings and make other announcements. One female passenger got my friend's face and screamed at her that if her bags were lost or if her golf bag was damaged, she would make sure to hold her personally responsible. My friend was pretty shaken not only by the loudness and anger, but also the woman's spittle, and tried to hold it together to give her departure briefing. Welcome aboard flight XXX, service to Orlando, you frickin' female dog. The entire plane lost it. My friend had forgotten to let go of the key on the side of the mic, so all noise was picked up. Story 9. The president of the uni I attended until 2007 was presenting something with a bunch of other important people. This was being recorded for later upload, and right when the pandemic was starting around March 2020. His wife appears in the middle of the talk, mad as hell, telling him to go clean the toilet and that she's not her slave to clean his crap. A few very awkward seconds later, he just says, "Maybe we have to edit this out later." Now, imagine how viral this must have been. I haven't had any ties to the uni since 2007, yet somehow the video got to my WhatsApp. Story 10. This was a conference call for work, but it was a big call with like 12 people and I'm new-ish. So really, I was listening as the senior analysts were discussing something. Call was going on for a while, so I took my laptop into the bathroom with me to take a crap, flushed the toilet, and everyone just stopped talking. Turns out, I did not mute my mic, and everyone just heard a toilet flushing in the middle of a meeting. Luckily, no one cared and they all laughed about it, but I was mortified. Story 12. While giving a lecture on the heated arguments among different schools of psychology, our prof screamed, "Fire! Fire! There's a fire!" And most of the confused students, including the teacher's pets, replied, "I agree, those were some lit points." Things turned out funnier and scarier when the prof went on with the screaming and we could hear her calling her house help and brother, alarming them of a fire sparking up her switchboard. So yeah, a confused, concerned class of 50 sat through the entire episode of putting out a fire while our prof revealed every dynamic of their family through her freaked out screams. 30 minutes later, she comes back to her laptop to unmute herself, only to find 100 "Are you okay?" messages in the chat box. How exactly did the prof say it that people thought she was talking about making a good point? Or were they just trying to make a joke about what she said, I guess? But like, if someone said, "Fire, fire, there is fire," I would be like, that's not good. That's probably, I don't know, a fire. It had to be something with the way she said it, but I can't even imagine what that would be. Story 12. This is from a couple years ago. I was working for a private college which has several campuses. My campus was the online campus. Each year, the campuses took turns hosting an annual writing conference for English/speech faculty. With it being the online campus's turn to host, we came up with the idea to make it a virtual conference, which faculty members could attend from home or go to their own campus to attend with their peers in a classroom. Anyway, as one of the people on the conference committee, my job was to host several of the various breakout sessions, as well as make sure the WebEx meeting was working, introduce the presenter of the session, monitor the Q&A, etc. I also made sure to mute the participants once it was time for the speaker to start. So there was no live mic scenario, but one of the participants left his webcam on. During the presentation, he whips out a gigantic party sub and is just going to town on it. So while everyone is watching the presenter's PowerPoint, you just see this guy who I had met before and was legit 6'8", just scarfing down a party sub in a window in the bottom of the screen. Honestly, it was more impressive than anything. Now, I'm not familiar with WebEx, at all, but is there no way to turn off a participant's camera? I feel like that should be a thing. If not, I'm very surprised. If there is and no one used it here, that's hilarious. Story 13. It actually happened on Friday. I have to take a training at my new workplace and it's online via Zoom. I had horrible diarrhea that day and I could barely sit in one place. Therefore, I turned off the camera and the mic so the instructor didn't see my suffering. And I turned it on when I had to answer a question or something. Accidentally, once I forgot to turn it back off. And when another rush came, I started to say something like, "Come on, female dog, hurry up, let's go on a break or I will die." I don't know if she heard it, but I think so, because a couple of minutes after, we took a break. Story 14. College student here. This was last semester, so it was when we had first switched to all online. I had an 8 a.m. class that was Renaissance through modern art history. Anyway, this kid in the class didn't have his mic muted and he was snoring, snoring. My poor professor tried to wake him up and couldn't. She also had no idea how to mute him or kick him out, so we went on with the lecture. After about 5 minutes, she finally said, "I can't freaking teach to this," and ended the Zoom meeting. The rest of the semester, we used VoiceThread instead. Story 15. This was work, not school, but someone posted a drawing of a Hello Kitty type character on the side of their presentation during a virtual meeting. One of my coworkers mumbled, "Damn, fat butt." Which, when I looked again, the character had a pear-shaped body. It was such a weird thing for someone to say, though, and my brain just dismissed it as me hearing something wrong. Until they panicked a second later and apologized for not being on mute. And then I fully processed it. Additional context, coworker is a 50-plus mother of 3. Well, that'll teach me for not reading ahead. It's a mother. The voice I gave to that was not a mother. You can understand why I assumed it wasn't though, right? Anyway, moving on. Story 16. We had a graduation on Zoom for my Air Force Airman Leadership School. Parents were invited to attend and someone's mother came in. And because she was the only one talking, it became center stage. She was looking down with the screen way too close and said the following. "Okay, I think I clicked the right button. I see a little black man in the corner. Huh? What do you mean? Well, if they don't want to hear me or talk, tell them not to listen. Where the frick is the mute button? Okay, everyone looks like they're laughing. I must have missed something." She found the mute button, but it was still hilarious. Added hilarity for how tense and formal the event was supposed to be. Story 17. I have a different kind of story, and the reason why you have to manually turn your mic/camera on or off when you join a meeting. Years ago, a sales guy working for Cisco was on the road, so he was alone in a hotel room. I guess he had an 8 a.m. meeting, so the guy joins the WebEx and then proceeds to lay on his bed naked and rock one out, while the whole meeting watched. He gets done and sees all the messages telling him his camera is on, and promptly leaves the meeting. Cisco ended up firing the guy over this, and I believe he ended up suing for invasion of privacy and winning or something like that. So that, kids, is why you have to turn on your camera before every meeting, or get notified that it's on. Story 18. Student here in theater class. We were told to deliver something akin to a custom TED Talk for the class by recording ourselves with a prepared speech. I deliver my speech with a few takes, and in one of them I ended it with a, "Frick yeah, I did great on that one." I'm a small, quiet guy and not great at speeches. I planned to edit it out and upload that take. I definitely forgot to edit that part out. My whole class and teacher heard me in all my glory, profusely swearing after giving a serious talk about women's rights and education. I immediately emailed my professor afterwards to apologize. I couldn't delete my upload or anything, trust me, I tried. Story 19. My cat caught a coral snake during my first period Zoom right in front of me, right outside of the window. That was a little disruptive. I ran out with a stick trying to separate the cat and the snake. Then after I got my cat inside, I was afraid my cat got bit because I couldn't tell. I don't know what to look for. So I came back inside and told my students that if my cat starts having a seizure, I'm signing off and going to the vet. Meanwhile, I asked my students to look up and make sure the saying is, "Red touch yellow, unalive a fellow," and it was. Story 20. Not school, but a year ago I started a new job as a construction photographer, and we had an online training course we had to take when we were starting out. On the very first day, I joined the call and had the mic on, and my boss walked into the office and started talking to me before the class. He asked who the instructor was, and I was like, "Oh, it's Jim last name guy," or whatever it was. He says, okay, that guy's really monotone and boring, unfortunately." Then I hear someone go, OP, you there? Yeah? Hey, yeah, when you're not actively answering a question, you can go ahead and turn the mic off. That day was pretty awkward. Story 21. Not a student or teacher, but at the job I used to work at, I was required to wear a radio/headset. One day I was cleaning boxes out of my office and picked up an especially heavy one. First of all, I farted when I picked it up, and then I was smack-talking the box, calling it a heavy female dog, voicing my concerns about a possible hernia as well, the usual. All while the button on my radio was being pushed down between me and the box. I obviously didn't notice until someone came into my office to tell me about 35 other people heard everything I had just said. Story 22. I joined science class the other day and the first thing I heard was a kid loudly yelling, "What the frick?" The teacher's reaction to this was, "Thomas, you might want to expand your lexicon." The kid shut up after that. Later, probably after he thought about it more, the teacher said, "I didn't know Pokemon trainers could cuss. Is that a thing they can do?" Because the kid's profile picture was a Pokeball. I have a feeling I'm not going to forget this easily. Story 23. This is probably going to get buried, but my university law professor, very intelligent guy but very serious as well, never laughed. Had a limp, but no one would ever dare to make fun of him because he had a strict military aura surrounding him. Forgot to turn off his microphone though while in class while he was going to take a pee. He was then loudly discussing his dark-colored pee and potential prostate issues with the junior teacher who had been following him around for the day, and I guess had to pee too. I never saw him the same again. Hold on, this is kinda sad though. Like, that's scary stuff, man. Glad he's watching out for his health though. Story 24. Kind of a reverse story. My wife is in a doctorate program and she and her class had to attend a virtual lecture over Zoom. Well, the presenter had themselves muted and refused to look at the message board where her whole class was spamming, "You're muted." The Zoom administrator, in the same place as the lecture, saw comments pouring in, but instead of looking, it said, "Please hold questions until the end." 20 minutes later, the lecture is done, and the admin says, "Okay, now let's take questions." Then sees that no one heard the entire lecture, just goes speechless and ends the Zoom conference out of embarrassment. How do you not look at what's being said in the What are you doing? I feel like maybe it's just the way my brain works and being used to text so much, I guess, but if I see text scrolling on a screen, I'm going to read, at least glance at it. And I feel like "you're muted" is short enough that you can glance and be like, "Oh, I'm muted." Story 25. I'm not a teacher, but this happened during the final presentations for my class last semester. So finals happened to land on 4/20. And this being a business class, we were expected to dress in at least a business casual when it was our turn to present. So the final group was about to present and all of them were in business casual except one student, who was wearing a tie-dye shirt and obviously very baked. During their presentation, the student would turn off their camera at random times but forget to mute their mic, so you could very obviously hear a bong rip. Then at the very end, the student forgot to turn off the camera so you could see the bong rip live. I'm not sure if the professor noticed or just didn't care at that point, but it really captures how little we all care about school through Zoom. I'm willing to bet the professor noticed. I think it's kind of unlikely that they didn't. It would stand out. Story 26. I'm an art teacher and I have several. 1. Older teacher, not tech savvy, gets frustrated during a staff meeting of about 100. She did not mute her mic and we could clearly hear her say, "Frickin' piece of crap," and "Screw this crap, I rather retire." Principal heard everything, was speechless. 2. Another older teacher during another meeting forgot to turn off his mic. We heard him order his breakfast from McDonald's. He was clearly not at home or on campus. He was driving, listening in on his phone. He got in a lot of trouble. 3. Not a mic, but a camera. Staff member could not figure out her laptop webcam, and we spent 1 hour looking at her cleavage and chest as we were all muted as she presented. I got more, but 3 seems like a good number. Story 28. This just happened last week. Oh, I'm a teacher. Okay, so my district is doing the hybrid mode for school this year, meaning I have both in-person and online students in my classroom at the same time. In the middle of one of my blocks of instruction, we all have our lunch break. Usually I just tell my online kids that they need to take their lunch break and then give them a time to return. And then I'm taking my lunch break and everyone is gone and it's all good. I leave my video and mic on the computer on because no one is usually in my room at lunch. Except for last Friday. I found a cyst on my private parts and I needed to call my doctor to get it looked at. I used my cell phone and was talking to my OB in a normal voice but clearly discussing sensitive things. Immediately after, I got a call on my room phone and it was the mother of one of the online students who had heard the whole thing because my computer mic had not been turned off and she just wanted to let me know. I'm still so embarrassed, but hey, lesson learned. Now I just shut down everything for lunch. I feel like if this happened like 20 years in the future, no teachers would be making this mistake. Or at least, I don't know, a lot fewer. Because as someone who grew up using microphones to talk with people online, it is well known. You mute that microphone. Whenever you're not there, you don't know what's gonna happen. You mute that mic. Especially since if you don't get in the habit of it, you'll forget to turn it off like in OP's case. Or like in my case, when my friend heard me singing in the shower and called a bunch of my friends to come in the Discord and listen. That was embarrassing. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one.